After months of speculation regarding his future, Sergio Perez's departure from Red Bull Racing in 2025 has now been announced. But where does this leave the remainder of the grid? And why have they taken the decision now? And who will replace him? More on that later, as we'll first dive into the reason Perez is leaving Red Bull now, and the main reason might not be what you think it is. Sergio Perez signed a new contract with Red Bull Racing in early June 2024, which would keep him with the team through 2025, with the possibility to extend into 2026 if his performance remained satisfactory. Back then, there was reason to believe in the Mexican racer's abilities. Despite retiring at Monaco, Perez had finished in the points in all 7 previous races, including 4 podium finishes. Perez was functioning admirably as a supporting component in Red Bull's pursuit of another Constructors' Drivers' Championship combo. But everything quickly fell apart. As the competitors produced powerful upgrade packages and the pressure increased, Perez's performance began to deteriorate. He started struggling in qualifying and races, and worries about his future came almost immediately. Sergio Perez's problematic remainder of the 2024 season had made it evident for some time that he would not be a part of Red Bull's Formula One future. However, it was unclear how the separation would play out due to the problems presented by his having a formal contract. That was the outcome of Red Bull's decision in June to give Perez a 2-year contract extension for 2025 and 2026, which the organization hoped would settle him. As Red Bull team boss Christian Horner admitted earlier this month about that call, "We elected to go early, which, obviously, didn't work. That's just life sometimes." Once committed, Red Bull couldn't alter its mind and decide it wanted to do something else. In the high-stakes world of Formula One, drivers and their management do not just agree to shred up multi-million-pound contracts and walk away without first negotiating a settlement. Julian Jacobi, Perez's seasoned manager, is well known for driving a hard bargain, having worked with the likes of Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, and Jacques Villeneuve throughout his long career in Formula One. Red Bull was fully aware of the contractual position in the final phases of the season, when it was evident that it intended to make a change based on performance, but it also recognized that there were other elements at play. It understood Perez needed to come to terms with the reality of his circumstance. If you say you're open to a deal, or that you're considering walking away, it undermines your negotiating position. This was the conflict that looked to be playing out in the latter phases of the season, as Perez, fully aware that the writing was on the wall, dug deeper into his drive to race with Red Bull and justify his belief that he would stay with the team. In Abu Dhabi, he said, "Nothing has changed since before in terms of what I've said for the entire year. I've got a contract for next year, and I will be driving for Red Bull next year." Red Bull also recognized it couldn't just drop Perez on a whim, as F1's Contracts Recognition Board would have undoubtedly gotten involved if there had been any breach of what had been signed. That meant a deal had to be struck, which is why Red Bull was always keen for Perez to realize that he needed to negotiate a way out. As early as Qatar, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said Perez realizing things weren't working. "It's not an enjoyable situation for Checo being in this position with speculation every week," he said. "He's old enough and wise enough to know what the situation is, and let's see where we are after Abu Dhabi." So what does Horner think went so wrong for a driver who, at his peak, has been the closest teammate Verstappen's had since Daniel Ricciardo's exit at the end of 2018? "He's not really quite sure," Horner said when asked what went awry for Perez. "The car became more narrow in its performance window. He struggled with that compared to Max. Such an enormous gulf in points between the two drivers. He was struggling with that then puts pressure on him, and the harder you try sometimes, the slower you go. It became almost like a vicious circle for him. Flashes of old form in Azerbaijan, but unfortunately that didn't translate into points because of a clash with Carlos Sainz. So it's been a hugely frustrating campaign for him. That's hurt us quite badly in the Constructors' Championship." Once Red Bull's shareholders decided at a meeting in Dubai on the Monday following the season finale that they could not continue with Perez, the task became one of completing the transaction. And, as Horner disclosed, when he and Perez met last week to address the situation, both of them accepted that their futures would not be together. But the strange thing is the wording. as Horner and Red Bull have communicated to the world that Perez was the one that decided that he should quit and take a sabbatical. Horner told Sky Sports F1, Perez reflected after the season, and we sat down and discussed it last week about what are the next steps, and he decided that he's going to take a bit of time out, take a sabbatical from F1 essentially, and he'll still be involved with the brand and the team, but he's stepping back from driving duties moving forward. It was sad to see him leave the team, but obviously it's time for him to spend with his young family as well, and reflect on what he wants to do for the future. So it eventually became a case of crossing the T's and dotting the I's. The specific details of what Perez and Red Bull finally agreed on will be known only to themselves, but it is worth noting that Perez himself provided the first confirmation of their relationship's demise, perhaps to save face. This was clearly depicted as Perez's decision. The message said, a message from Checo, and shortly mentioned, an agreement to part ways between the driver and the team. It's the narrow distinction between jumping and being pushed. The ultimate result is the same, but the starting point makes all the difference once the lawyers get involved. For Perez, the arrangement may keep him out of F1 until 2025, but it will at least provide him with a respectable payoff as he considers his next steps in racing. And while there may have been an expenditure in finalizing the arrangement, Red Bull hopes that what it has had to pay out, as well as any sponsorship losses brought by Perez, would be offset by the team having a stronger shot at the constructors' title next year. But the question is, who will partner Verstappen? While Liam Lawson is anticipated to take over, Red Bull's first release did not identify Perez's successor. We have all the information that we need. Essentially, it will be a choice between Yuki, Tsunoda, and Liam. Both have got strong credentials, Horner said. We tested Yuki recently at the tyre test on Tuesday after Abu Dhabi GP, a chance for him to work with the engineering team. Liam has done a lot of testing with us behind the scenes this year as well and has driven very well in the 6 races he's had. So we have all the information. We're just looking at that and considering all of that. Speaking with the engineering team as well, and we'll come to a decision in the coming days. Red Bull has various possibilities for its future, both with its major and junior teams. Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda have both worked hard to obtain the top Red Bull racing slot, while Red Bull's younger drivers will be chasing the Racing Bull's position. Liam Lawson is the top candidate to win the Red Bull seat for the F1 2025 season, with Isaac Hadjar promoted to the Racing Bull team with Yuki Tsunoda. But is that fair? After all, Liam Lawson only has half a season of experience, whereas Tsunoda has 4 seasons of experience. Is Lawson really the way to go for Red Bull? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.